Greetings, everybody. Okay, greetings, everybody. This is Serpentine451, and welcome back to another episode of Weeb Warriors. Joining me, as always, is my good friend Jordan. How you doing tonight, Jordan?
I'm doing okay, Tony.
All right. It's been a while since you've been doing these reviews with me, and I know with your work schedule and then the holiday season just being the way that it is.
It's pretty hectic there for a little bit, but glad to be back.
Well, as we discussed before actually recording for this episode, we have a certain structure that we're going to be doing now. I'm going to be doing the two shows that you haven't seen yet with their most recent episodes, then our holdover shows, and then our new shows that we're reviewing for this season. So let's start with that, with Nekopara episode 2 and Pet episode 3. I'll start with Pet because it's the most recent show I've watched, actually. This third episode's called Jobs, where we have what's the name of the guy again? Oh, Tsukasa, one of our protagonist characters, and his friend Hiroki actually running a shop of their own after the events of the previous episode where they're no longer working at the bar that Kenji will be working at. But Katsuragi has to take Tsukasa in for a job that's connected to the Yakuza and a Chinese crime family, which leads to an individual named Inui being the focus of our mind diving facet of the episode, where he is a product of his grandmother basically treating him like his mother, dressing him in female clothing and whatnot, having his hair grow out, and having anything to do with masculine features or qualities basically eradicated from his life. And this show has its moments where it can get pretty damn dark. And it's very fascinating that it delves into the psyches of certain individuals. And Katsuragi wanted Tsukasa to essentially eliminate a Chancellor and Inui at the same time, but using Inui's mindset and the primary focus of the man who brought him into the Yakuza as a focus. But since the individual that brought in Inui into the Yakuza looks similar to a man from his childhood, and the main weapon that he uses, a bat, holds a special significance to that notion as well. But overall, still a very solid episode. And then we have a B plot where Hiroki, at the shop that they own, which is a fish store, by the way, where they actually sell live fish, and not sell, fish we consume, he messes with the mind of a woman that actually bought a couple guppies from him, so she can end up ending her relationship with a guy who is basically treating her like shit. And that's essentially the episode. There's also a level of dependency between Hiroki and Tsukasa, which there is a lot of homosexual undertones in terms of their relationship as characters, but it's for the simple fact that, as mentioned in the previous episode, when you introduce somebody to your peak and valley, it's imprinted into them, and it affects them in a very... it gives that person an attachment to you, if you were to do that. And it's mentioned that the person who introduced one of the other characters to their peak and valley, it is predominantly affecting them, leading into the next episode. And that's essentially Pet. With Nekopara, we're introduced to a kitten that is at first seemingly lost, and Chocola's trying her best not to have her master, Kasho, run into this kitten simply because he said in the first volume of the visual novel that he cannot take in more cat girls. That is it's very hard for him to actually take care of one when he has two already that work at his pastry shop as well. So Chocolate does her damnedest to hide the new kitten, which I've affectionately named Mint. And Jay actually takes that nickname that I gave her wholeheartedly. But anyway, Vanilla also runs into this cat girl and tries to help Chocolate, her sister, in trying to break the news to their master that, hey, this kitten is seemingly lost. Can we take her in? Kasho is like, no, we are not doing this shit. So he calls in his sister, who is an expert on cat girls, and takes her in for the time being until they find out for sure that Mint isn't a masterless cat girl. And that's basically the episode, split into those individual parts. It's still very wholesome. As a fan of the visual novels of Nekopara, I find it always satisfying just to watch this show. It's very wholesome, it's very adorable in its own way, and the cat girl characters are always fun and enjoyable in their own way. Even with the H scenes and the raunchiness of the visual novel taken out of this very slice of life, wholesome show. And I'm thankful for that. Alrighty. So which one of our holdover shows do you want to start out with first, Jordan?
You want to go with the holdovers?
Didn't we talk about that before?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My list is out. One of my interspecies reviewers is out of order here. But the holdovers we have, let's go ahead and start off with My Hero. We are on episode 77, Bright Future, which is the conclusion of this latest story arc involving Overhaul.
Mm-hmm.
And this episode was, I would say, very emotionally impactful rather than action-packed.
Definitely.
We see a few things which are quite intense. So the episode begins, well, I guess not necessarily begins. It begins with a slight recapping of the events that happened in episode 76,
Mm-hmm.
and deals with the immediate aftermath of that. Night Eye being taken to the hospital with a literal spike of stone through his whole body. Midoriya and the other heroes going to the hospital, and the League of Villains intercepting Overhaul's transport. Now, if you're like me, when you saw this, you were initially thinking the League of Villains was intercepting them to rescue Overhaul so that they could then use this as leverage to press him into obeying them instead of the other way around. And what you find is that Mr. Compress destroys one of Overhaul's legs while my boy makes his other leg decay. They then leave him there strapped to the board without his quirk, or I actually didn't understand that part where they say that he's lost his quirk. Are they implying that...
they actually took his hands.
He needs his hands?
Mm-hmm. His quirk is... Yeah, his quirk is primarily focused on touch. What he touches basically disintegrates and he can touch them again to reattach them.
Yes, but flip side, they did also destroy his legs. You can go back and see that Mr. Compress takes his leg and then he destroys his leg and then they destroy his hands. So they take all of his limbs.
Yep, he is a limbless individual now.
Now, but that is an interesting thing about quirks, in that you would think that if you lose your hand, your sensation of touch does not disappear with it, which would mean that he could still use his power, he just need to use it at the wrist, right? But I get where they're trying to get at. It is, in fact, at the end of the day, an anime, so we're not going to nitpick it too much. But we move on past Overhaul, who, after having been turned into a quadriplegic and left to be recaptured by the police without the ability to use his quirk, and feeling as though the Yakuza era has finally ended, we get to see Night Eye, who has, through sheer force of will, kept himself alive just long enough to say his goodbyes. Mm-hmm. Tony, how did you feel about that scene? Did it conjure up any emotions for you?
It did. It most certainly did. And typically, I'm the sort of person that when I see people cry, I tend to almost cry myself. So when I see all these different characters just tearing up, even All Might began crying at the sight of his sidekick passing away. And then that made me think, God damn it. I have to feel sad again. God damn it.
Hey man, it is what it is. Honestly, it was not surprising, but it was I think that it was done very well.
Oh, definitely. I agree.
I've seen a lot of depth scenes, a lot of times where they want the audience to feel sad, but I think Night Eye's death, the things that he said, the things that he wanted to communicate in those last moments were very genuine.
Oh, I agree with 100%. Especially his words to Mirio.
Yes, I think him using his power for the last time, even if we didn't actually get to see what Mirio's future would look like, if it looked like anything, was a nice touch, and I think that's going to bolster Mirio as he tries to overcome his complete absence of a quirk now that he's been shot with this serum. Ideally, it's imperfect, and he will get his powers back in some fashion at some point, but that remains to be seen. Unless, of course, you read the manga and it's been revealed what the truth is. I am not aware. I'm not a manga reader. But we're not here to discuss that. This was an anime review.
That is correct.
All in all, I give it a 5 out of 5. I think this arc was one of the better arcs of the entire series. I was glad to see that it got animated, and I'm looking forward to future episodes. I'm not sure how many episodes are left in this season, if any.
I think it said it was 24 overall.
Right. I just don't know, because it's episode 77, but I don't know what episode we started on, so...
Yeah, I think it was like in the high 60s, I believe.
Right, so then we have a bit to go.
Mm-hmm. But I agree with you with the ranking of that episode. It is a 5 out of 5 episode in terms of an emotional connection you have with all the characters at this point in time after this beautifully animated arc. Yeah, I just agree with you 100%. And then now we just have Welcome to Demon School Irma-kun as our last holdover show.
Yes, welcome. Oh, and for those that may not know, My Hero is found on Funimation and Crunchyroll. But to Demon School Irma-kun episode 16, Party Eve, we are getting to the nitty-gritty core of what I imagine is going to be the major conflict of this series. And before we get into the nature of it, I did want to address something. I feel as though this show would be just as good without any of the shonen elements involved at all. It can stand completely alone as a comedy series, sort of a comedy isekai series, and I'd still watch it. That said, I am excited to see what the fuck's going to happen.
Oh, definitely, especially at the end of this episode, which, basically, we got a little bit more of an explanation of how the Battler Party's Eve is going to work, and how this tradition sort of began. Well, the previous episode tells us how the Battler Party began, but we add on to this where we have a bell that's supposed to ring, letting people know that the actual Battler Party is about to begin. So what we're experiencing right now is the night before. And we also have the machinations of Baal and Amy essentially going to eradicate Babulus off the face of the earth. Well, the netherworld, I should say. Uh, that's... Oh, and we also got to see a little bit more interactions with the rest of the characters during this festival time. And Clara, being Clara, deciding to wanting to set off the fireworks right then and there because, well, she's an airhead.
Yeah, and honestly, I found that entire scene to both be hilarious in its own little way, but also sort of like deeply insidious. Because, I mean, as the audience, we already know that Kiryu is being motivated by his relationship with Ball to seek destruction of Babel Academy for whatever reason. We still don't know what the hell's driving him. But as it becomes clearer and clearer that he's stolen the firework for some alternative purpose, we get this nice dichotomy where Kiryu wants to destroy the school and Iruma wants to put his undying faith in his senpai, which is very Iruma.
Oh yeah, definitely it is. Iruma is the type of guy that tries to see the good in people. Oh, and in this case, demons.
Also, it's gonna break his little heart when he finds out that his senpai isn't as on the up and up as he would like him to be.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it's gonna crush him, but he's gonna do his best to stop whatever's going on with these barriers and shit. Yeah, because that fucked with me a bit. It's like, oh, I was expecting a big explosion, but no. The school itself was just separated into cube and rectangular-shaped barriers around different points.
Which honestly was pretty sick nasty and a surprisingly effective area denial tactic, especially since they're invisible, right?
Oh, definitely. And since his magical ability is to create barriers, it does make sense.
Yeah. Honestly, what is your theory on how his necklace worked? My thought is that it did not... So, my thought is that Kiryu has a normal amount of magic as a general statement, and that the necklace simply stored all of his magic for some period of time so that he could unleash this mass bloodline ability power.
I kind of had that same thought, but I thought at first it was a power dampener, or something that limited his capabilities to keep up his facade as this weak individual.
And I would be inclined to believe you if it wasn't for the fact that Iruma's ring has an affinity with his necklace, and the ring eats magic.
That is true. That is true.
But they could just be have an affinity to each other because of some other reason. I don't know, so it's hard to say.
I'm not quite sure myself, but I'm trying to figure out, since you're right, the ring feeds on magic. I'm guessing they're made from a similar cloth? I'm guessing that...
Well, I mean, I guess that the ring's made of metal.
Yeah, I know, but...
Or do you mean cloth figuratively?
Figuratively.
Gotcha.
Like, their properties are similar, but not exactly the same.
Right. For whatever reason, it doesn't appear that the necklace has any degree of sapience, whereas the ring has its own little, I guess, spirit.
Yeah, a little black fire thing.
Yeah.
But with that being said, Iruma-kun's still a great comedy show in its own way. And with this more, like you said, Jordan, more shonen aspect that is flavorful in its own way, but it would have been just fine as a comedy show all the same. We still would watch it.
Yeah, I definitely still watch it. And we still have a lot of episodes to go. It's going to be a 23-episode season. We're only on episode 16.
Mm-hmm.
We got good stuff to come. Good stuff to come. I'm looking forward to it. I hope they do not drop the ball. because that would be wildly disappointing. I fully expect it to be made much more apparent to everyone that Iruma is going to be the Demon King. Because,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's plainly obvious to us as the audience.
Oh yeah,
right?
it is. And Sabrock in some of the earlier, in episode 5 at least, kind of made this connection. Like those who have the Ring of Solomon, kind of become the Demon King. And
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I guess would limit him beyond his own personality is the fact that he's still borrowing Chair Demon's magic, and he does not possess any himself.
That is true.
He possesses all other qualities. He will descend from another universe. He will heal all demonkind, and he will be able to make pacts with them. He's the only fucker that can do all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I expect the last episode to be him and Ball fighting it out, and because he defeats him, he gets recognized as one of, like, the big demon boys.
Oh yeah, definitely.
From the big demon boys.
Mm-hmm. I agree. 100%. So let's actually go over to our shows that we just added because of Winter 2020. So what do you want to start off with first?
Let's start with the worst. Let's go ahead and talk about Interspecies Reviewer episode 2. Wait, I exited out. I exited out. I had everything open. I was ready.
Episode 2. Episode 2. Fairies have limits on what they can take. Demons aren't very popular. Minotaur girls are big, beautiful, and bootylicious.
There it is. I was like, I had the title and I exited out.
Oh, this show. Personally, I love it because I'm a fucking degenerate. But
right. I mean, so where are we? This episode begins with. Actually, I would need the title to know the different.
We have fairy girls. We have fairies at first.
Fairy girls. So they get the idea in their head that they want to have sex with fairies for some awful reason, and they decide that they're going to go visit a fairy brothel. They immediately get hustled hard.
Oh, they do.
By the mistress of the fairy brothel, and there's a literal dick measuring scene.
Yep.
where we learn a few things. Size is not all that matters. Big fairies can handle big dicks, and angels pack the heat.
Yep. Indeed.
What was the next one? I mean...
Then we have...
my energies.
The next part is where they talk politics, where they have... Well, this demon lord is having a political rally saying, hey, the demon party will try to give all these things to you, and then she just bounces. And Stunk and our boys basically say, hey, we're hoping the orc party wins the election because we agree with their platform, which is basically obtain food and fornicate. And then they talk about the other party, the succubi party, where it's nothing but 3 parts of their platform. To fuck, and fuck.
Mm-hmm. I mean, then wasn't there like some blurred out thing that they were like, do this, but we can't even say it on the air?
I think so. But then they are accosted by this Piccolo-looking motherfucker from the Demon Party saying, hey, can you please vote for the Demon Party? Demon girls are apparently ranked second in the top 5 worst monster girls to screw. And he said, boys, I know you guys, you're reviewing that pussy, help us out, please. And they were about to, but then they got distracted by some big titty Minotaur girls.
You mean Titanic titty Minotaur girls?
That is correct. They are titty monsters, that is for damn sure.
I mean, in the literal sense.
It is quite in the literal sense. Yes, you are right, Jordan.
I mean, they are monster girls, and they are mostly tit.
This is true. And apparently, all they did there was just milk that shit.
I mean, that place apparently specialized in milking, so yeah, that was a thing.
Yep, that was a thing that I witnessed, and I laughed my ass off at it.
You know, I kept it moving. I was like, this is bad for my health.
But that's pretty much the episode there. I enjoy the show because it's raunchy, it's stupid.
Yes, that's it.
It's raunchy, it's stupid, and it makes me laugh. And plus, I can make all sorts of crude jokes all I want. Because if I have to talk about... Well, if I make jokes about Krem's Holy Raw not being substantial enough for fucking fairies, and that he and the group get distracted by Titanic Minotaur titties, all is right in the world. But enough of that. Let's actually get to another show.
So to the good series of this season, moving right along, one of my favorites, Bull Fury. I don't want to get hurt, so I maxed out my defense. Available on Funimation. I will tell you right now, unabashedly, this is one of the best fucking series out this season. It is hilarious in the most refreshing way, but not at the sacrifice of being actually interesting, especially showcased in episode 2 with the appearance of my girl Sally with the swashbuckler build.
Oh, now, hell yeah. Well, the first part of episode 2, where we pretty much have Kaede or Maple deciding, oh, I actually won a cool prize, so I'm going to try some PvP in this game. And Homegirl destroys people.
Also, can we talk about how I love how the dichotomy of Maple's build? Her defense is stupid high, and she has only AoE debuffs.
This is true.
Guns, explosions, fucking hydras. I'm like, you're the woman of my dreams.
Very true. And this girl ends lives by just ruining people by hitting her shield on their faces. And
yeah, it's quite crazy. Honestly, I think the way that ability works, if I were to try to assign mechanics to it, is that it deals some amount of damage proportionate to the vitality rating of the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And Maples is like, what, 896 or something to that effect?
Some stupid high number. Some stupid high number.
So it's easily over 1,000. So what ends up happening is that she deals more damage to them than they have vitality, so she just instantly eats them.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because this,
it's just like, yep.
As we established in the first episode, the way that she beat the poison dragon was she ate that bitch.
Honestly, yes. That was just, and I was like, oh wow. So we're here now. I know I'm in love with this show. I'm in love with it.
And I really enjoy Sally as a character too. And her whole fight scene with that sea monster, that shit was
so the reason
on
I
point.
Love Sally in this particular context is because I thought that she was just going to be an accessory for Maple.
Mm-hmm.
But she's actually gotten fully fleshed out backstory, motivation, and fighting style. And her little one episode battle was quite fucking impressive. The only thing I'm disappointed in is that she didn't lean all the way into all of her aquatic abilities and start whipping it with a fishing rod as her main weapon.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate thing. Sure, we're going to be introduced to more quirky characters in this show. So, having someone that's a bit more...
I'm not upset by it, but...
I mean, the way I see it, with her having a build that really suits her mindset and to kind of complement what Maple's doing with her build is perfectly fine. And plus, the gear that she got from that sea monster is probably going to be doing some beneficial things for her. And plus, didn't you laugh like I did? I was on the verge of tears from laughing, seeing Sally just be treated as a vehicle for Maple, since the bitch is slow. Yeah, did you see that scene where Sally gives Maple a piggyback on the way to that fishing mission?
Yes, and Maple's just fucking slaughtering the enemies in the way.
Yeah, let's just. Hey, paralyzing shot, let's knock these boys out. We're on our way to the cave.
It's just like, wow.
Still great. Still very funny. But let's move on to our last show for the review docket, that being Plunderer.
Plunderer, episode 2, I Hate You. So, let's talk about it. I'm just going to go ahead and start off with saying I've never seen an ass whooping so bad in my entire life as I have seen in this episode.
Oh, definitely. I agree with you there, Jordan. Licht did not hold back treating this asshole like he was a punching bag.
Like, I was... I just didn't know what was going on.
Yep. Man did not realize that he was facing off against somebody who was faster than the eye can see.
So, for those that don't know, Licht means light in German, and my dude moves as fast as light. He is the ace of flashing strikes, and the thing that really gets me, is that he beat this dude's ass by walking. Yep. I mean, there's literally a scene where he's taking steps and punching him in the face with the air from his fucking steps. Like, yes. It's so ridiculous that I had to rewind to make sure I was seeing this right. He wasn't kicking it. He wasn't, like, flicker flashing, like,
no,
attacking.
This man was just stepping. This man was just stepping.
Also, I really appreciate the fact that they had Licht destroying the area around him, because a being that would move that fast would create a lot of destruction.
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Also killed Hina by moving that quickly, but
definitely. We're gonna, it's its own special logic. So, and plus, I gotta say this just on the, because while I was watching the episode, this was in the forethought, like this was predominantly in my mind. Hina is just a good representation of an anime protagonist. Well, in the best way that I don't want to see this girl sad. She tries her damnedest, and I love her for it. Like, this show made me fall in love with the character so much that it made me a bit sad to see her cry. And I didn't want that. Thank you, Plunderer. You gave me that. But still. We also got to learn why Licht has the negative number on his hand. And the reason why he has that.
Yeah, he gets rejected by women a lot.
Yeah. This man... Well, I think some of it is what he imposes on himself.
Yeah, it definitely seems like he gets himself involved with people that he really shouldn't. Mm-hmm. And also, he's a terrible pervert, and we can't forget that. I mean, let's not pretend like Licht fucking and probably needs to be in jail.
Oh, definitely. Agreed. 100%. And then at the end of the episode, after the asshole got the beating of the century, and Licht decides to, I'm gonna just leave. I'm bouncing, folks. We get introduced to one of the other officers of the military who works for unknown persons and letting them know, like, hey, we found the ace of the flashing strikes. And that's not vague and potentially ominous enough.
Nope.
Oh, and also, Licht actually did a good thing and gave the ballot back to Hina after he supposedly took it from her, so he can sell it, so he can make some money. Well, so there's still a good guy at his core, but the negative aspects of his personality are at the forefront. And I think that's enough of our initial reviews here. So, Jordan, I've been thinking a long time about some things about the soapbox discussions here, and it's got me thinking. Well, sometimes we make some predictions of some shows of varying degrees of quality, but as of right now, what do you think is going to be the best show of winter 2020 out of the ones that we have, we're going to be reviewing here? And you just have to pick one.
Like the leftovers or the series that started in 2020?
The series that started in 2020. The holdovers are solid quality regardless of which season that they're in.
Well, honestly, looking at the list, I think Bo Furry is going to take it out as the reigning champ for the simple fact that Plunderers has a lot of potential, but it seems like one of those series that could take a swift turn real quick.
This is very true. I agree with you 100%.
And there was no way in hell that I was going to say interspecies reviewer. So Bo Furry comes out on top. I think Bo Furry has a very solid premise, and there's honestly no reason for it to derail because it should be very linear.
Oh.
She should get more powerful, get more friends, and go on more adventures. And as long as that comedy element is there and she's refreshingly ridiculous, the series is going to be solid.
Oh,
also from the opening, which I only watched on the first episode because my controller was too far away, it looks like the rest of the characters that we're expected to be introduced to are pretty badass. So I'm excited.
Oh, I agree with you. Bo Furry looks like it's going to be one of the great shows of the season, and everything else, admittedly, maybe middle of the road or just plain bad, but well, I can agree with you that interspecies reviewers, it's terrible, it's awful, but I enjoy it for the simple fact that it's so bad it's good, at least to me. So I can agree with you that it can be one of the worst shows because of some quality issues. And I can also say that even though I'm a fan of Neko Para as a whole, I still see it as a very it's going to be a middle of the road sort of show, and that's perfectly fine. It's not trying to do anything big or like groundbreaking, and it's fine where it is. And a show doesn't have to be groundbreaking all the time, but at least when some quality is in there, it leaves it at a bit average or above average, at least in my honest opinion. But with that being said, we are going to be ending things here. Thank you, Jordan, for joining me as always, and I hope you guys enjoy this season so far. We may be 3 episodes in for some shows and 2 episodes in for others. And just from our initial impressions of the first couple of episodes of each of the new shows, Winter 2020 seems to be rather enjoyable with some shows, and some shows are god-awful, but we're on this crazy train together. So tune in next week when we look into these shows even further. Any last words, Jordan?
No, I think that's summarized it pretty solidly.
Alrighty. Tune in next week, guys.